monster, you say? Let's see just how monstrous. What's up, guys? So here we are to do a breakdown / live reaction and review to Restless Gamblers, why Hakari is a monster. And I'm mainly doing this video because the thumbnail looked fire. And it's Restless Gambler, so I know it's going to be peak. And also, I'll admit, I need to get my Hakari street cred back. I don't know. I've seen the whole Hakari community label me as a Hakari hater, an Hakari denier, a person who despises Hakari Kenji, and I love the character. So I do need this video to kind of restore my street cred. But let me see it right now. This video is 11 minutes and 39 seconds long. But if you do not want to sit here and hear me yap extensively, which will definitely be longer than 11 minutes and 39 seconds, please check out the link to the original video in the description down below. Check out the link to Restless Gambler's channel, which is also in the description down below. Fantastic content creator, amazing editing, amazing music choice, amazing, like, I don't know. I'm gonna glaze as the video goes on. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
For 153.
For how many? Now, what's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact. Golly. How long? How long? Has it really been that long? Yeah, I guess it has. I guess it has, right? Because Hakari's introduced. Well, no, Hakari's mentioned way earlier in the series, but like he was introduced, like probably over 100 chapters, because that's like pre-Culling Games, and Culling Games is like 150s. At least I think it starts around there. And like the perfect reparation arc includes Hakari. Yeah, so it's really been a minute since Hakari's been introduced, which makes it okay. So before we get into it, before we let Restless Gambler, what in the world was that? Restless Gambler cook up a little bit on Hakari Kenji and why he believes he's a monster, and obviously is the representative of Restless Gambler's channel. The reason why I like Hakari Kenji is because he's built like that. For real, for real. I like his mentality. I like his ability. I like his stretching of immortality, and I like how he reaches that immortality. All that's fantastic. I love every single aspect of that about Hakari. The only issue I have with him is that it feels like for the hype he's gotten, he's somewhat underutilized. And it feels like he's never allowed to hit the heights that he's hyped to. It's not even that I don't believe them. Notably, I am still perfectly fine with that statement. Of course, it does cause a tiny bit of confusion, but like that statement about him being stronger than Yuta went on a roll, I am fine with that. It does not bother me. Mainly because that doesn't say he's stronger than Rika, and I think Rika's stronger than Hakari. But other than that, it doesn't really bother me. I'm perfectly fine with that. It's just that his track record and the opponents he fights and the amount of damage he does to the opponents he fights for how long he fights them, and his realistically, his output and abilities in comparison to a lot of his contemporaries, they just ain't hitting like that for real, for real. Like, I love immortality, and I love punching and kicking, but like, Charles was a nobody. He beat Kashimo, which is fantastic. Once again, he beat him by circumstance. I think he was going to win that fight eventually, though. Once again, unless Kashimo managed to perfectly time a bolt at the exact perfect right time and gave up on trying to slaughter an immortal Hakari, I think Hakari got that. Bro's on a roll. So like, it was going to take a while regardless, but I could see the vision where Kashimo won that fight, and Kashimo leaves that fight with little to no external damage. And now, Hakari's been fighting Uraume since chapter 237. Yo, we're on 252 at the time of recording. It's been 15 chapters, and in the most recent peak in 252 we've gotten of that fight, let's think. Let's rub our brains together and try to consider what nothing. I mean, Uraume apparently didn't even activate their domain expansion. They went all out and have taken barely any damage, and Hakari Kenji's looking a lot worse for wear. But of course, Hakari's whole thing is looking worse for wear. So I don't know. It feels like he just doesn't have the same impact for how much he's hyped up. Unlike someone like Sukuna, who is living up to and exceeding all the hype he's gotten, Hakari Kenji, despite having levels of hype from Gojo, from Yuta, from other characters, from external materials, all that, I don't know, it feels like Gege just hasn't given him enough to really live up to that hype. But let's see why he's a monster. Like I told you, this is going to be a long video. If you do not want to hear me yapping extensively, go check out the original video. The link will be in the description down below, along with the link to the Restless Gambler's channel. Please peep. But let's see. Hey, and if you go over there, tell them I sent you. I'd appreciate that. But let's see.
For 153 chapters of the JJK manga, we got constant mentions of a student whom we never even got to see. He was characterized as an idiot, a moody guy, a complete, but most importantly, someone incredibly capable. And in today's video, let's talk about what exactly makes this student who he is. What's up guys, Restless Gambler here, and in today's video, we've got the long-awaited solo Hakari video. This video will act as an analysis of Hakari's character. What exactly makes him non-human according to a monster like Yorame? That's what we'll find out today. If you like Hakari...
Okay. Yeah, and obviously, go subscribe to Restless Gambler. And subscribe to me. If you aren't subscribed already, also, did you hit the like button? I really appreciate that. Trust me, it helps. Gosh darn it, I need the likes when I can get them. Speaking of like, let me like his video too. Let me do that right now. But, in fact, I need to start getting into the habit of leaving comments. But with that being the case, if I had to take a guess at what makes Hakari Kenji a monster in comparison to a lot of other people, and one of the main reasons I like him as well, specifically as a character, because I went really down the scaling path. It doesn't seem like that's going to be this kind of video. I mean, like, the opener talks about how much Hakari was hyped up as being very capable and all that. But I think the main thing that makes Hakari Kenji notably a monster, a beast, a creature, an animal, is the complete lack of care for his own life. The willingness to throw it all away. As a certain someone was said to do, the willingness to leave it all behind. You could make me immortal. You could tell me for the next 90 years of my life, no matter what befalls me, the heavens could crash upon my head, I could be thrown into the sun, the universe could collapse on me, and for the next 90 years, I'm guaranteed to survive it and regenerate in seconds, and I still would be hesitant to do things. Sure, would you probably find me in the forest with a grizzly bear, fighting a bear? Yeah, of course, you probably would. But still, I'd be like, mink. I may still have a little something on me while I'm doing it, because I'd still be a little bit scared, even if I was told that and it was 100% confirmed. But the thing with Hakari Kenji is that it's not confirmed. He's a gambling man. And sure, as they say, it's always rigged in the favor of the house. That's not how that phrase goes at all. But the house always wins. That's how the phrase actually goes. So of course, Hakari has it rigged, but still, he's gambling. He's risky. For 4 minutes and 11 seconds, the man is immortal. For the rest of it, he's wildin'. No immortality. In the domain, he's wildin'. No immortality. And the willingness to do that, the willingness to throw it all away, the willingness to leave it all on the table, to put it all on red, is something that other characters have rarely been shown to do, even in a series which benefits heavily from that, like Jujutsu Kaisen. The only other characters we've seen fully willing to leave it all behind, not care about anything, and just gamble it all, put it all on red, it's like Sukuna and Toji. Not even though, kind of, sort of, in a way, Toji, but even then he was about to run away from that, and Maki. But mainly Sukuna, the main person who's also considered a monster. I guess Urame. But like, in terms of monsterhood, it's Hakari's willingness to lose it, to put it all out there, to risk that life. Why? For the fever. There's no deep philosophical moral reasoning behind it. It's because it's what he wants to do, so he will do it. And I can respect that. That is what I still appreciate the character for. That's why I still really, really like the character. Even if I'm personally in the camp that, bro, is a teeny tiny bit underwhelming for all his hype. In contrast to a lot of other characters who got real good hype and then ended up living up to or exceeding that hype. Once again, mainly thinking of his fellow monster in Sukuna. I still think it works out really, really well and makes Hakari very appreciable as a character, because every single fight shows that. Completely and absolutely. There's not a single fight of Hakari where you don't see that monsterhood. From him willing to risk it and gamble and rile up Charles, allowing him to get pierced, pieced up, and do all he does, to the battle against Kashimo where he risks it over and over, bolt after bolt, again and again and again. And finally with Urume, where he's allowing limbs, legs, toes, feet, anything but the J's. The J's are the one thing he refuses to leave behind. But everything but that he's willing to sacrifice. And I can respect that a whole lot. It's a mentality that, admittedly, I don't think everyone should live by, because we aren't immortal. But I still think that willingness to gamble, to enjoy life, to chase nothing but the fever, to live for your passions. I think that's a good message. I think that's what most people should do, because you got one life. Why not put it all on red? Don't do it! Don't do it, though. You are not the Restless. Don't do it. Don't take this as advice to go start doing things. Don't gamble it all on red. Put it on black. No, I'm kidding, but don't do this. Don't do it. Be reasonable. Be reasonable. Don't be foolish. But let's actually hop into the video itself.
And JJK videos like these, go ahead and subscribe. You get more videos and we'll both be happy. To start this video off, we first have to understand we never got to see Hakari. In Volume 0, the prequel to JJK, where Yuta is the main character, there took a place a war named the Night Parade of 100 Demons. In it, a ton of Jujutsu sorcerers fought against the curses Geto, a special grade curse user, let out. This is actually where some great beats and stories for some characters came about. In this battle, Nanami hit the Black Flash record, something we learn about more later in the main story. Same goes for Toto fighting 20 cursed spirits and a special grade cursed spirit without his curse technique. But the one most important is Hakari's participation. Hakari was actually at this war. We never got to see him in the movie, but he ended up fighting a higher up and beat. Because of this, Hakari was suspended from Jujutsu Tech, and we didn't see him once in the actual story until chapter 153.
The funniest thing about that, though, why in the world was he fighting a higher up? Like, I don't think that's, like, I don't think it's explained. Hold on, let me double check the quote he pulls up, because I remember seeing that in passing.
Because of this, Hakari was suspended from Jujutsu Tech. We never got to see him in.
He was sent to Kyoto to assist in the Night Parade 100 Demons, got in a disagreement with the old school conservative, beat the life out of him. He's suspended from school. So, yeah, we don't know what the disagreement was for, but he just had a disagreement and fought him. We never get elaboration. And once again, this is clearly retroactive information. Like, Hakari didn't exist. I don't think, ironically enough, when did Zero come out? Zero's old. Well, not old, but like Zero's old, pretty past now. I'm not sure. Hakari was introduced by that point in the manga, though. So if this was a thing, that could have been included in the movie. But at the same time, I understand why not too much. We didn't even get to see Toto fight the special grade in the movie. JDK Zero, while only covering 4 chapters, and it's basically 1 volume of the manga, a lot happens in there. And unless we want the movie to be like 3 hours long, you couldn't include everything. But like, for some retroactive continuity, that's very important stuff that explains why Hakari isn't present for the early narrative. But like, it's extra and it's retroactive, which is one thing that I do think JJK suffers from. We learn about a lot of things after the fact, never in the moment. And of course, sometimes it's because these things don't exist. Like at the time Gege was writing Zero, I don't think JJK was a glint in his eye. Maybe it was, but like, I don't think so. There are a lot of things that don't exist in Zero that are very, very prevalent early on in JJK itself. So I think there are things that are missing. But that is one I really wish we got to see. But I also wish we got to see Toto versus Special Grade in JJK Zero. But that's another thing for another day. But let's see.
Once in the actual story.
Oh, and I'm sorry, before I let Restless Gambler keep cooking, Hakari is also another character who needs to be kept out of the narrative before he's introduced. A lot of the early series is predicated on the fact that there just aren't that many strong characters. Like, you can't have Hakari in the narrative too soon with his scaling. You cannot have Yuta in the narrative too soon because of his scaling. And of course, you could just nerf the characters, but once again, I think that takes away from the characters. So, Hakari, he also couldn't be there because he would kind of break the... Just imagine Hakari in Shibuya. Oh, I wonder if Mr. Restless Gambler could have ever made a 23-minute and 56-second video on Hakari going to Shibuya that happens to have him activating his domain expansion against Kenjaku. I wonder if it would ever be in someone's plans to react to that, because he still hasn't seen it, because he's been waiting to react to it, but is scared because that thing's 23 minutes long, and he'll be here for 3 hours. I wonder. That may be next. But with that being the case, I think that's another reason. Hakari can't be there because he's too powerful. He just is. But once again, that's hinted at early on in the narrative, so which I think is good. I think Gege does do a fantastic job of planting them seeds, getting us hyped for Hakari and his level of strength. But let's see.
Until chapter 153. The significance of this I'll go into in a second, but we first have to analyze the fever. When Hakari meets Yuji for the first time, he tries to sell him a course. He tells him that he'll earn 1,000,000 yen per month for just 1 hour of work per day. But then he says for Yuji to find out what the work in question is, he has to pay Hakari 200,000 yen. To that, Yuji makes it out that that's a scam, and Hakari directly admits that is the case. It all has to do with fever. The person...
Honestly, despite having a relatively low-key intro, Hakari's is one of my favorites. Like, notably, when we think of intros, or reintroductions particularly, because that's what I think of in, like, the back half of the series. There's a lot of reintroductions. Yuta has one of my favorites. Him showing up, and I guess technically it is a reintroduction, but Yuta showing up against Yuji, Naoya, and Choso, one of my favorites. Obviously, Maki's awakening. But then again, that's more like a posting. I wouldn't really say that's an introduction. Gojo's return is obviously a very, very big one. But Hakari, despite it being so low-key, does a fantastic job of establishing his character. It really does. And here's the thing. I know I'm going to go back into like, hey, Pencil Man isn't supposed to be a positive Hakari video. Yes! And I am being positive. But once again, it feels like Hakari gets so much just to get so little. So far. Once again, there's still a high likelihood he's going to show up against Sukuna. I'm hoping he does. Like, if we don't get the immortal man versus the man who cheated death, I'm sorry. I'm going to be disappointed in Gege. Absolutely and indubitably. But, like, at least for right now, with how much gets established for Hakari, with how much gets hinted at for him in this early introduction, how much hype he gets, it really is sad that he gets, like, 3 fights. One of which we don't even see the proper end of. And then the end gets off-screened. The other which he believes he didn't even win. And the third one which is still going on and has been going on for the past 15 chapters. It's a bit rough. Let's see.
Who gets scammed has a fever to change their life, and so they fall for cheap scams like those. The scammer has a fever to change their life as well, and so they go on with these cheap scams. When you get high off a fever, you do rash things, not using your head and going right for what you desire. And Hakari loves this because it exists in everyone around the world. The main way to exchange fever according to Hakari is to gamble, but he claims that life itself is a gamble. He says that he's had a lot of girls break up with him because of his obsession with gambling, but he says that they all have it wrong. Everyone gambles in life, but society ostracizes the loss and ruin that comes from its most extreme forms.
And once again, I don't know. There are a lot of philosophies in JJK that I do generally align with in loose senses, in very loose senses. I do agree with Hakari on that. That is a fundamental truth. Everything is a gamble. It's a gamble whether or not you're going to wake up in the morning. We are fragile. Like, horrifying. Like, we step down the stairs the wrong way and we're cooked. It don't take much. Life can just happen. Life be happening. Everything you do is a gamble. And while I still think there is reason, there's limits, as Hakari himself points out the idea of the scammer and the scammed, you do need to have a little bit of a brain on you. I do believe approaching life in that way, understanding that nothing in life comes from being absolutely safe, and understanding that need to risk it, to play along, to have a little bit of fun in life. No matter the cost, I think it is important. But I still think, and once again, that's a difference between Hakari and I don't think everything needs to center around the fever. I think sometimes you do need a cool head. And I think even while you do have the fever, even while you're making those rash decisions, you're moving quick, you're making big money moves, you're trying to get your money up, not your funny up, you do need that balance. You do need to walk that fine line. Everything in life is a gamble, including the gamble itself. You gotta know, do I put it all on red? Or do I put 25% on red, look to double that, and keep the 75% if I've already won? And then keep moving forward from there. You get more fever putting it all on red. There's nothing more exciting. Laying it all down the table. The possibility of losing it all and winning it all. It's fantastic. But at the same time, there's the risk that comes with that. And I feel like life is that balance of fever. That balance of understanding. Where you know you gotta risk. You gotta move forward. Talk to the person you like. Make the moves you want in your career. Do that thing you want to do. Whether it be recording that video. Talking to that person. Getting that gym membership. Doing something. You gotta be able to risk it. But you gotta risk within reason. That's the balance you need to find. And Hakari Kenji, in a way, lives off that balance too. Like I mentioned. His ability is a gamble, but at the same time, he is the house. It's rigged to win. Hakari himself is a scammer, but hey, what is a Jujutsu sorcerer but a con artist? So I think Hakari does play into that balanced gamble well, which I really do like. Once again, everything about Hakari is fantastic. I love him as a character. I just think he deserves more. He deserves better. better showings, more strength feats, more speed feats, more everything, more abilities. Like I just want him to have more because of how much I love him as a character and how much I can even relate to his mentality and mindset. In spite of me not gambling, I don't chase that fever. I'm scared. But let's see.
For example, you probably woke up today and got straight on your phone, right? That's a gamble fueled by fever, the fever to be entertained. And so you're so high on that you don't even think about the consequences of using your phone right after you wake up. You're gambling the impacts it might have on you later in life. There's not a single person on earth who doesn't gamble. What they hate isn't gambling, it's loss and ruin. For this reason, Hakari loves the fever. The fever fuels gambling, and gambling is life. But also love is control. So Hakari wants to control the entire country's fever. He had already been controlling the
and that's it. That's that thing. It's unfortunate, and I say this badly. I say this bad. This is not a positive thing, but it's true in life. You always want to be the scammer, never the scammed. You want to be the one in control, not the one being controlled. If you can, of course. I believe the best thing in life is that everything is balanced. I'd love to live in a world where, but like I do like the idea of all men are created equal, but that inherently is a lie. Some people are born taller, stronger, faster, smarter, easier to pick up certain things. There's nothing in life that's fair. That's the beauty of humanity, though. The lack of equality, the lack of unity between us is what makes us unique, and I think that's beautiful. I don't think you should oppress people for their differences, but at the same time, you must be able to acknowledge those differences exist. And you got to be willing to take that gamble. To try and vie for control. Whether it be of your own life or others. Of course, I'm personally an individualistic kind of guy. I believe you want to have control of your own sphere. The best you can. Of course, there are limits to everything. That's life. Once again, we could never control the sun. The stars, the heavens, whatever lays beyond it, even the great nothingness of creation is something we'll never probably be able to get our hands on and control. But anything, from your own flesh and blood, to how you manage your money, to the people you interact with, everything that you can control, you want to try and control it well. You want to be able to have an understanding, of course, partake in the fever. Once again, that's the beauty of life. The literal temporality of it. The fact that it doesn't last forever. That's what matters. And of course, that's what gives the fever and gambling itself value. But you want to gamble smart. You want to play it smart. And you want to make sure you control well. I think Hakari is a perfect example of that, like he's going to go into with the idea of control. Restless gambler's clocking right now. But let me see.
Fever of the people who knew about the Fight Club, as we see that he deliberately states he writes scripts. The people watching don't actually know, but they're so high on their fever that they'll gamble on the outcome anyways. Hakari wants to do this on a broader scale, crushing all his obstacles, and for that reason, he tries to hire Yuji. Hakari's entire ideology revolves around controlling people's fevers to benefit him, and not caring about the consequences of his own actions because he knows it was a gamble from the beginning. Unlike everyone else, Hakari doesn't fear the loss and ruin that comes from gambling. This is why when we first meet Hakari, he says himself that he hasn't been so hyped about something since having maxed out credit cards. I don't know what is so exciting about credit card debt, but from Hakari's eyes, it's all part of the gamble of life. On the same topic, in chapter 158, Hakari talks with the students about what has happened, and he finds out that Gojo got sealed and Principal Yaga got killed. Then he says he hasn't been so bummed out about something since a cartoon character got hit in the butt.
And admittedly, once again, it's that idea of being reasonable, not losing yourself entirely to the fever. Don't go into credit card debt, gosh darn it, if you can help it. If you can't help it, life. Once again, it's the beauty and the ugly thing about life. You can't control it. Life does what it wants to you. There are going to be moments where you're happier than you'll ever know, and there are going to be moments where you're sadder than you'll ever know. That's just life, unfortunately. And it's a beautiful and horrific thing from time to time. But, once again, it's the manner of controlling that fever. It depends. It depends on if... Well, not really. At least in my opinion. You never want to be controlled by the fever. You don't want to be addicted. You want to like things. I believe it's important to have likes, preferences, wants, needs, desires, all that. I think that's natural and human. But you never want to be controlled by your impulses. If everyone's controlled by their impulses, the world wouldn't work. Yeah, I will be willing to be logical, to think things out. And maxing out your credit cards just because, or doing horrible things to your significant others and or friends just because you feel like it, I don't think that's good. And I think Hakari makes mistakes here and there. But once again, like Restless Gilmer says, he doesn't necessarily fear the loss and the ruin. And I think that's what tips him over. That's what puts him in there. That's what tips him out of the rational, fever-seeking, I want control, natural part of humanity into that monster. The lack of fear, the lack of concern. Who knows how many debt collectors are on Hakari Kinji's head? Hakari Kinji may not be his real name, depending on how many credit cards he's maxed out. Bro, maybe his name may as well be Richard Brown, for as random as his real name could be, considering what that man has done just for the fever. But at the same time, there still is that thing about Hakari that transcends him. That lack of fear of loss and ruin. That lack and fear of the loss of his life. That thing that makes him different from you, me, and most people. If I told you that if you could beat a grizzly bear with nothing but this for $1 trillion, would you do it? Would you? No, right? Because you ain't beating a grizzly bear. I could give you who knows what I could give you, and you probably still wouldn't beat it. I could give you a gigaton hammer. You wouldn't be able to lift it. And the bear would definitely be able to lift you. But Hakari Kinji? Shoot, he may just take that gamble. For $1 trillion? For how many beans? You know how much control he can get with that? What a greater gamble than his own life. And that's the difference. That's what makes him a monster. Well, that makes us people. And once again, neither is good nor bad. There are benefits to both. The willingness to work within and use the system to your advantage and the willingness to work against the system are both things you need to have from time to time. Just Hakari consistently references the latter, and thusly he has extremes that are heavily referenced away from what could be good but towards what could be positive, like the example being brought up here of Hakari's highs and lows. And you even see the other characters there, like that filth, that waste of space, that disgusting excuse for a creature and character Panda. And Itadori point out, he's been living a good life. Because it's all he's been focusing on. Sadness, negativity, that ain't feverful. That's all cold. So why focus on that? Why remember it? No reason to. Why bother? It's a good thing. Sometimes. You don't want to be steeped in your negativity. You don't want to be steeped in mire and sadness and darkness. But at the same time, I don't think you want to give it all up. I don't think you do want to leave it all behind. If you didn't go through things, you wouldn't develop, you wouldn't grow, you wouldn't evolve. It's not just going through things or experiencing them and then ignoring them that makes you a better person. It's going through them, reflecting on them, and changing to adapt to the situation that, in my opinion at least, makes you a better person. Stronger than you were before. But once again, that's my mentality bleeding into the Hakari video. Something up.
But with an arrow. The students assume Hakari's been leading a peaceful life, but I disagree. I think Hakari has gone through some crazy stuff, but doesn't care enough about it because that's the life he leads. Again, everything is a gamble, and if he's not scared of loss and ruin, why would he ever care about the consequences of his own actions? And so with this ideology comes Hakari's desire to control everyone else's fever. When Yuji moves him with his own fever, Hakari cuts a deal with him. In exchange for his strength, they'd have to help him build his business. When Megumi reveals he's the head of the Zenin clan, he used it for his advantage. Of course, Maki deletes this asset a day later, but the point is that Hakari was going to use it. Now, moving on to the topic of Hakari and the higher-ups.
And one thing that I do like about Hakari, at least in the sense that he's nuts, but he's not too nuts, he's still reasonable enough to know that the system exists. He can't fully fight it. The system as a whole is more powerful than him, to the point where he needs to use people who are benefited by the system, like Megumi. Why else would he care that Megumi is the head of the Zen clan? Oh, because he needs the system to accept him in order to evolve and grow. That's why he still gave in. Hakari, he may be nuts. He may have numerous maxed out credit cards, a fake name, and gotten into who knows what mess over his 18 years of living. But at the same time, He's logical. There's a little brain there. He may have been the scammed a couple times, but that man always has the mentality of the scammer, which is sad, but needed in life. Let's see.
Something I found insanely interesting is his complete alienation from them. Hakari is assumed to be special grade level by the community, but we never even get a grade for him, symbolizing his departure from Jujutsu rules. And we can't even chalk it up to a coincidence or Gege forgetting, because even Higuruma gets a confirmation that he's grade 1 level, but Hakari never gets anything of the sort. But the most clear cut of them all is what exactly the higher ups have beef with Hakari for. His innate technique. In chapter 155, while Megumi tries to convince Kirara to help them, Kirara says something truly telling. In response to hearing that Tokyo is going crazy right now, Kirara says that they're the ones who left them out in the first place. It's then explained to us that Hakari and Kirara got into an argument with the conservative faction of the higher-ups. Essentially, since Hakari's curse technique is so modernized and complicated, they hate it, and so they always end up losing. But the one thing they have is Gojo, their saving grace. I bring this up because this can possibly show us what Hakari has gone through during his time as a sorcerer. We know the higher-ups are cruel.
I completely forgot that was the reason he likely. But then again, he was sent. I wonder if that was the same thing. I think that's supposed to be implied to have been the same event. Like they sent him out, but then they talked about his technique, and then he thought about it, then he got exiled. I think that's meant to be the same event. I completely forgot. Once again, I need to do a reread of JJK. It's been years. Not years. Maybe years. Since I've read that chunk of the narrative. So I do need to do a proper reread to make sure I get all my facts in order before I be speaking wrong. But yeah, he's probably about to go into the idea of differences. And how, once again, Hakari, he's able to rebel against the system. He's willing to fight back, quite literally. He punched a higher up. Probably did more than punch. But when you got something as powerful as Satoru Gojo there, something so powerful that the system itself is forced to conform to its whims, but it still works underneath the system, what are you supposed to do other than run away? So maybe Hakari wouldn't fight that bear. if he was a regular guy like you and me, maybe he wouldn't fight that bear, even for $1 trillion, because he could fight Gojo. You know how that would go, and so does he. So he doesn't do it. So there's a little bit of thought going up there. But let's see.
And corrupt. Heck, you guys saw what almost happened to Yuta. Of course, I don't think they would put Hakari out for execution just for a modernized technique, but I do see orders being put in place to get Hakari out of the way. And so what I think this is the alienation of Hakari being shown to us again. And with that yap out of the way, this leads up to Urame's quote when they're fighting Hakari. As Hakari decimates everything around him, slamming Urame through multiple buildings, Urame notes something from this particular fighting style. While modern era sorcerers will hold back their power from destroying what they can so easily destroy just to hold on to their humanity, Hakari doesn't do that. He doesn't have a fear of isolation, and so that's what makes him more than human. This quote can be seen as just an extension of what we already established. In his first ever dialogue with Yuji, he already made it known that he thinks differently from society. What they fear is rather the...
And once again, I do like that. The willingness to destroy everything. Once again, there's a reason why I compared him to 3 other people, and one barely even counts. Toji, who is described as the one who left it all behind, but he left it all behind and then he was kicked out and everyone went back and got his lick back. Maki, who genuinely left it all behind and then decided, wait a minute, I'm not just going to leave it, I'm going to go destroy it, which would fundamentally go against the way society would be the normal reaction to certain things. And Sukuna, who couldn't care less about the life, the property, the anything of others, as long as it gets in his way. Hakari Kenji's in that league, in that tier. Yuta cares about life. Itadori cares about life. If it was up to Hakari, Megumi would have been cooked. They would have set that man on deep fry. Even Gojo cares about life and his humanity. That's, ironically enough, that was Gojo's biggest weakness. And the end of the days, it was Gojo's humanity that got him. If he was just like Sukuna, if he was going for its sake, if he was just a guy concerned about his own power for his own power's sake, Gojo Satoru may have just become the strongest, but he didn't. He was still human. He still cared. That's unfortunate. It's sad. For Gojo, because that's what led to him falling. But Hakari Kenji is a man who couldn't care less. In a way, he transcends those. Now, is this a accurate or positive or healthy way to live? Not necessarily. But I'd say Hakari has a decent balance of it. Because he still clearly cares. He's had girlfriends. He cares about the materialistic things. He's still tied to the world. I wouldn't say Hakari has reached some sort of like transcendental enlightenment where he doesn't care about anything and everything, and thusly he's like the ideal. No, he's not. No. Like, once again, don't max out your credit cards unless you have to. But at the same time, he's getting there. He's getting there. He's a monster. I wouldn't say he's a Buddha. He's up there. I wouldn't say he's enlightened. I think that's good. Once again, he, as monstrous as he is, his connections to mortality. Heck, we even see the way he picks up his J's and puts them back on after the fact, after he gets them knocked off. That's still innately human. That's care for a physical possession. No matter how monstrous he is, he's still there. He's still human. And that may be his downfall, or maybe his saving grace. It all depends on how Gege decides to take the character. Though, hopefully, it's a saving grace. But let's see.
Loss and ruin that comes from gambling rather than the act of gambling itself. But Hakari, on the other hand, doesn't fear any of that. In fact, he embraces it. Everything he does is a gamble because life itself is gambling. His attitude of not caring about what happens stems from that mindset and lets him get worked up. Hakari has already been alienated, ostracized because of his differing beliefs to society. This is why Gege literally made him suspended for the first half of the story, but he doesn't fear it at all because he's the one who put himself there. And that right there is what makes Hakari's mindset monster-like. For reference, let's look at Sukuna's mindset. When he fights Jogo, you can see the weakness in the cursed spirit that doesn't allow him to reach the heights of his potential. When Jogo is asked why he doesn't expand his domain, he says he knows he would lose in the domain clash. But he doesn't actually know that. He assumed he wasn't strong enough due to his fight with Gojo. And so Sukuna called him a loser. When Jogo gets killed and Sukuna talks to him, Sukuna says that what Jogo lacked was the hunger to go for what he desired. He should have went for what he.
And the ironic thing about this statement is that Gojo has the exact same issue as his letter-flipped counterpart. Gojo never reached his full potential. He never did. And notably, at least this translation is different from the one I usually see. You should have burnt everything you desired to a cinder. To reach the heights of Satoru Gojo and not worry about your future or identity. But you lack the hunger to take hold of your desires. In some translations, at least I'm thinking, maybe I'm wrong. In some translations, I'm pretty sure Sukuna says something along the lines of, you should have thought like Satoru Gojo. Left everything behind. The biggest thing about that statement, though, and why I think this is a more accurate summation, is that Satoru Gojo was a height to reach. Satoru Gojo himself was very much worried about his identity. His connections to others, how he felt, his future, his identity, what was going to come after him. And that's why he fell. That's why he was eventually left behind by the person who didn't care about all that. For the person who did have the hunger to reach and take hold of his desires. Because Satoru Gojo didn't. But then again, Satoru Gojo did have desires, and depending on whether or not they beat Sukuna, then those desires will still have come true. And that's the question of, well, not even just the question, but the moral quandary as a whole, at least in my opinion, at the center of Jujutsu Kaisen. Who's going to be right in the long run? Should you worry about the future, or should you worry about yourself in the present? That's the ideological battle between Gojo and Sukuna. And depending on how Hakari, Maki, Yuta, and Itadori all do against the king, the embodiment of stagnation, the embodiment of self-care and individualization versus holistic ideologies, that is well determined who's right in the end, or who was right. Gojo Satoru may have fallen. He may have been burnt to a cinder by the King of Curses. But unlike the King of Curses, who when he falls, his ideology falls, Gojo Satoru, while being gone for now upwards of 16 chapters, his ideology is still breathing and fighting strong. Admittedly against the other ideology, which isn't even trying. Which, once again, causes its own things. But let's see.
Wanted, destroyed all of his obstacles, and done it without worry of the future or of his identity. This mindset is all the more present in Hakari. As I've said for the 1000th time, Hakari does what he wants as a gamble, and the outcome doesn't matter to him because it was what he got himself into in the first place. He has the mindset where identity or the future wouldn't be something of worry for him because he knows what he's doing can compromise them. He beat up a higher up, got suspended, and immediately started a business, taking advantage of the state the Jujutsu world was in and going for what he desired: control. Every student who knows Hakari other than Yuta says that isn't the reputation of a guy who cares about what others think about him. This is contrasted by Yuta in JJK 0 when Maki calls him out for acting like a good person. Hakari doesn't care about any of that. He'll do what he wants and get what he wants. Put Hakari in Jogo's place here and I think it's safe to assume that he's going for the gamble and clashing domains with the king of curses himself. But apart from that mindset, there is something else that needs.
And once again, I've been mentioning it throughout the video, that's the danger of Hakari's mindset. And admittedly, once again, Jogo may have been able to hit Sugita before Sugita opened his domain, but he still would have lost. Jogo was destined to lose that fight. But that's the thing. Hakari, he'd open his domain and he'd lose. Simple as that. Too bad. Hakari would be fine with it. He put his life on the line. He's probably going to do that soon enough. He's going to end up in a point where he's clashing with Sugita. I'm confident. I smell it. It's happening soon. But there are some battles you just can't win. Hakari knew that. He didn't try to fight the society. He tried to take advantage of it after it kicked him out. So Hakari has some logic behind him. So maybe he wouldn't have opened his domain. But he probably would have. It's Akari Kinji. Why not, essentially?
To be discussed, and that's the topic of love. This can be a whole video on its own, but from the core of it, I'm referring to the different ways different characters define love. Sukuna defines love as recognizing the people who want to be recognized. We see this in the fight with Jogo mostly, as at the end of it, he acknowledges his strength, calling him strong and leading Jogo to tears. We assume Yuta's definition of love is to care and protect others, something that goes completely against Sukuna's ideals. Same with Yuji, whose entire ideology is centered around saving others. But Hakari's definition of love is control. To love something is to desire to control it. Hakari loves the fever, and so he wants to control all of Japan's fever. Of course, I wish he had more examples of this, but JJK isn't a finished manga, so we'll just have to wait and see. But because of that reason, we can make predictions for Hakari's future. In his fight with Urame, I think we will see more use of Hakari's proficiency and last minute moves, his gambles. Just like in his fight with Kashimo, most of it was things he did at the last minute. He sneezed Kashimo's cursed energy out of his nose at the last minute. He sacrificed his arm at the last minute. And he expanded his domain while at death's door. But beyond that, if this is the final arc, I expect Hakari to get with the group.
I never ended up reviewing this chapter. Why is he so chunky in this image? He looks chunk and like pot calling the kettle black. I know, but like still, I don't know. He looks extra. Like is that a puffer? I don't know. He looks just a little funny in this image to me.
And be acknowledged by Sukuna for his mindset. It would be nice if he enters the domain clash, like I said earlier, showing the difference in hunger between him and Jogo. While Jogo and all the rest are merely strong, Hakari himself, well, he's a monster.
Okay, I see you. Oh, and that's it. That's the end. All right. Oh no, it's a Restless Gambler video. Would you be shocked if I said the video? Yeah, it's worthy. Come on now. W Hakari analysis though. Once again, we didn't actually end up tackling too much of the Hakari power scaling, but like that's fine. There are other videos that will most certainly tackle that. I already see, once again, there are two more Restless Gambler videos right on top of each other that I'm thinking of reacting to. I can already see the vision right now. It's there. So we're going to get some more Hakari scaling, especially from Restless Gambler, soon enough, where I'll be able to get my own thoughts on Hakari out there. But yeah, hopefully I'll see how I feel about Hakari, why I like the character, why I agree with some parts of the character, why I disagree with some parts of the character, and I hope you guys enjoyed Restless Gambler's analysis. Fantastic. Like I said, Restless Gambler and Blaziken Anime are two content creators who are fantastic at bringing up earlier points of the manga that I just generally forget. Like, I wish there was more excuse or reason. I just generally... Editing me? You have fun with that. But, like, there's some points of the manga that I just generally tend to forget or lose my mind with. But they're fantastic at bringing that back out. And I think that's wonderful. I think Hakari's a fantastic character. I'm excited to see him cook. I hope he doesn't get cooked too badly. I do want him to make it to the end. I hope he gets something of the future he desires. And I hope someone helps him pay off that credit card debt. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave gambling restlessly. I know it's just bad, but gambling restlessly in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, along with ad-free variations of all my videos. And if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Now, thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That with a Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays, Greyhound, Kids Void, Astro, Red Wolf 4765, and Eternal Flame. I'd like to give another thank you to our $5 patrons, Victor, Steron, Sean, RNG Master, Midnight Lord 21, Metal Solid Crisis, Kevin, Igneel, and EHAC1. And I'd like to give a gargantuan thank you to our $7 members, Autumn Mornings Lazo and Jan Tomaz. And I'd like to give another juicy old thank you to our $10 member, Jay Warrior. I'd like to give a gargantuan thank you to our two $10 patrons, Joaquin and Idemokami. And I'd like to give another sloppy thank you to our thank you to our $25 member, Alex Ice Rose. And I'd like to give a juicy gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Winter. Another fantastic next level thank you to our $25 patron, ChinaDoll09, and a final gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.